Right now, as you're listening to my voice, a war is being fought inside you. An invisible, high-stakes battle on a cellular battlefield millions of miles long, with trillions of soldiers fighting and dying every second to protect a kingdom of one, you. At this very same moment, a biological supercomputer of unimaginable power is processing this information, converting the simple sound waves of my voice into complex thought and meaning, all while commanding a chemical factory of unparalleled sophistication to keep you breathing, to keep your heart beating, to keep you alive. You are not just living in a body. You are a living, walking, talking universe. And we're about to explore its deepest, most astonishing secrets. Forget the dry diagrams you saw in high school biology. The reality of the human machine is stranger, more complex, and infinitely more fascinating than you can possibly imagine. We have gathered 100 of the most mind-altering truths about the vessel you inhabit every single day. Facts that will change the way you see yourself forever. Let's begin with your personal blueprint, the very code of your existence. If you were to take the DNA from a single one of your cells and stretch it out, it would be about 6 feet long. But here's the kicker. If you were to take the DNA from all the cells in your body and stretch it end to end, that single, impossibly thin thread of genetic information wouldn't just reach the moon. It wouldn't just reach the sun. It would stretch all the way to Pluto and back, not just once, but multiple times over. Think about that for a second. The complete instruction manual for building and operating you, a library of data so vast, is coiled and packed with impossible efficiency inside the microscopic nucleus of nearly every one of your trillions of cells. We're talking about a total length of something in the realm of tens of billions of miles. This biological hard drive contains around 3 billion base pairs, the letters of our genetic alphabet. And it's this code that dictates everything from the color of your eyes to your predisposition for certain traits. The sheer information density is staggering, far beyond any technology we have ever engineered. Every time one of your cells divides, this entire cosmic-length library is flawlessly copied in a matter of hours. It is the most elegant and compact information storage system in the known universe, and it is the very essence of you. And all of that information, that cosmic instruction manual, is being read and executed by a workforce of trillions. Which brings us to the sheer scale of you. You are not a single entity. You are a bustling, thriving metropolis of an estimated 37 trillion human cells. To put that number into perspective, there are only about 400 billion stars in our entire Milky Way galaxy. This means you contain, by cell count, nearly 100 times more citizens than there are stars in our galactic home. Each of these cells is a specialist, a tiny, dedicated worker. You have neurons that fire with electrical passion, muscle cells that contract with unified strength, skin cells that form a protective barrier, and immune cells that patrol your internal highways like a vigilant police force. And this cellular city is in a constant state of renewal. You are not the same physical person you were 7 years ago. Millions of your cells die every single second, a process known as apoptosis, or programmed cell death. It's not a sign of failure. It's a critical function where old or damaged cells commit a form of cellular suicide for the greater good of the organism, making way for fresh, new cells to take their place. You get a new liver roughly every year, a new skeleton about every decade, and even the lining of your gut is replaced every few days. You are a living, breathing, constantly regenerating paradox, a stable being made of perpetually changing parts. But the population of your body isn't just human. In fact, your human cells are outnumbered. You are host to a vast and complex ecosystem of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microorganisms, collectively known as your microbiome. For a long time, it was thought that these microbial cells outnumbered our own cells by a factor of 10 to 1. While more recent estimates have revised that ratio to be closer to 1 to 1, it's still a staggering thought. At least half of the living cells that you carry around with you every day are not, in the strictest sense, you. This isn't an invasion. It's a symbiotic partnership that is absolutely essential for your survival. These trillions of microbial allies, living primarily in your gut, help you digest food your body can't break down on its own. They synthesize essential vitamins like B12 and K. They train your immune system to distinguish friend from foe, and they even produce neurotransmitters that can influence your mood and mental health. This internal garden is so unique that your microbial fingerprint is more distinct than your genetic one. You are not just a human, you are a superorganism, a walking, talking coral reef of life, a beautiful collaboration between the human and the microbial, all working together in a delicate, life-sustaining balance. Now, let's power this incredible superorganism. The engine at the center of your universe is, of course, your heart. This tireless muscle, no bigger than your fist, performs a feat of endurance that is almost beyond comprehension. Over the course of an average lifetime, the human heart will beat more than 3 billion times. It pumps blood with such force that if you were to spring a leak in your aorta, the largest artery, the jet of blood could spray over 30 feet. Each and every day, your heart pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood, which is enough to fill a small swimming pool. Over a lifetime, that adds up to more than 1 million barrels of blood, enough to fill 3 supertankers. It does this without ever taking a vacation, without ever stopping for a break. From before you were born until your final moment, it beats rhythmically, a constant drumbeat of life, pushing oxygen and nutrients to every single one of those 37 trillion cells. It is the ultimate marathon runner, a perfect engine of perpetual motion that fuels your entire existence. The electrical system that coordinates this is a masterpiece, with its own pacemaker cells that generate impulses independently of the brain, ensuring that even if communication lines are cut, the beat goes on. And where does all that blood go? It travels through a vascular network so extensive that it defies belief. If you were to take all of the arteries, veins, and capillaries from a single adult human and lay them out in a single line, that line would stretch for more than 60,000 miles. That's enough to circle the entire Earth more than twice. Think about that. You have a transportation superhighway tucked inside your body that could wrap around our planet. The vast majority of this length is made up of the capillaries, the microscopic vessels that are so narrow, red blood cells have to squeeze through in single file to deliver their precious cargo of oxygen. Every single cell in your body is within a hair's breadth of a capillary, ensuring that no part of your cellular metropolis is ever left without a supply line. This intricate, fractal-like network is a marvel of biological engineering, ensuring that from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, every part of you is connected and sustained by the river of life flowing within. Speaking of that river of life, the travelers on this highway are just as amazing. Your red blood cells are the ultimate delivery drones. Each one is a tiny, biconcave disc, a shape that maximizes surface area for oxygen exchange, packed with about 270 million molecules of hemoglobin. These cells are created in your bone marrow at a mind-boggling rate. Your body produces about 2 million new red blood cells every single second. Once they enter the bloodstream, they embark on a relentless journey, making a complete circuit of your body in under a minute, delivering oxygen and removing carbon dioxide. They live for about 120 days, traveling hundreds of miles through your vascular network before they are retired and recycled in the spleen and liver. There are about 25 trillion of them in your body at any given time, a tireless fleet ensuring that the fire of life in your cells never goes out. Their journey is a microcosm of our own existence, born, given a vital purpose, performing that purpose tirelessly, and then making way for the next generation. Now let's move from the circulatory system to the command center that oversees it all, your brain. This 3-pound lump of wrinkled, fatty tissue is, without any exaggeration, the most complex object in the known universe. While it makes up only about 2% of your body weight, your brain is an energy glutton, consuming a massive 20% of your body's total oxygen and calories. This energy fuels the activity of approximately 86 billion neurons, the specialized cells that transmit information. That's a number so large it's hard to grasp, but it's roughly the same as the number of stars in a small galaxy. It's not just the number of neurons that's impressive, but their interconnectedness. Each neuron can form thousands of connections, called synapses, with other neurons. The result is a neural network with an estimated 100 trillion to perhaps even a quadrillion synaptic connections. To put that into perspective, there are more potential connections in a single human brain than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It is through this impossibly dense and complex web that every thought, every memory, every emotion, and every action is born. The information traveling through this neural web moves at incredible speeds. The nerve impulses that carry messages from your brain to your muscles and back again can travel at speeds of up to 268 miles per hour. That's faster than a Formula One race car. When you stub your toe, the sensation of pain feels instantaneous, but it's actually a signal that has to travel the entire length of your leg, up your spinal cord, and into your brain to be processed. The fact that this journey is completed in a fraction of a second is a testament to the high-speed efficiency of your nervous system. This bioelectrical network is constantly buzzing with activity, even when you sleep. Your brain is never off. It's continuously managing your body's automatic functions, consolidating memories, and even solving problems while you dream. It is a ceaseless, lightning-fast storm of electrochemical activity that creates the entire reality you experience. And what about storage capacity? While comparing the brain to a computer is a flawed analogy, attempts have been made to quantify its memory capacity. Estimates vary wildly, but some neuroscientists have suggested that the human brain's storage capacity is in the range of 2.5 petabytes. A petabyte is 1,000,000 gigabytes. That's enough storage to hold 3 million hours of high-definition television. You would have to leave a TV running continuously for more than 300 years to fill up that much space. And unlike a computer hard drive, your brain's memory is not static. It's dynamic, associative, and constantly being rewired. Every new experience, every new piece of information you learn physically changes the structure of your brain, forging new synaptic connections and strengthening existing ones. This remarkable ability, known as neuroplasticity, means your brain is not a fixed object, but a living, evolving landscape of thought and memory that is constantly being shaped by your life. Let's look at the outer layer of your body, the first line of defense. Your skin is your body's largest organ. The average adult is covered in about 22 square feet of skin, weighing around 8 to 10 pounds. It's far more than just a simple covering. Your skin is a complex, multi-layered organ that serves as a waterproof, insulating shield, guarding your body against extreme temperatures, damaging sunlight, and harmful chemicals. It's packed with nerve endings that allow you to feel the world around you, from the gentle caress of a breeze to the sharp sting of a paper cut. It exudes antibacterial substances to prevent infection, and it helps regulate your body temperature through sweat and blood flow. It's a dynamic, living barrier that is constantly renewing itself from the inside out. And it does this by shedding. You are constantly shedding dead skin cells at an astonishing rate. Your body sloughs off between 30,000 and 40,000 dead skin cells every single minute of the day. That adds up to nearly 9 pounds of skin every year. A significant portion of the dust that accumulates in your home is, in fact, your own dead skin. You are literally leaving pieces of yourself behind wherever you go. This constant renewal means that the outermost layer of your skin, the epidermis, is completely replaced every 2 to 4 weeks. You are, in a very real sense, wearing a completely new suit of skin every single month. This process is essential for healing wounds and maintaining a strong barrier against the outside world. It is a quiet, continuous act of regeneration that goes completely unnoticed. Now, let's venture inside to the framework of your body, your skeleton. When you're born, you actually have more bones than an adult. A baby is born with around 300 bones and pieces of cartilage. As you grow, many of these smaller bones fuse together. For instance, the bones of the skull start as separate plates to allow the head to pass through the birth canal, and they only fuse together later in childhood. By the time you reach adulthood, this number has consolidated to just 206 bones. This skeletal framework provides structure, protects your vital organs, and anchors your muscles. But it's not the inert, dry scaffolding you might imagine. Bone is a living, dynamic tissue that is constantly being broken down and rebuilt in a process called remodeling. In fact, you essentially get a completely new skeleton every 10 years. This process allows your bones to adapt to stresses, repair tiny fractures, and regulate calcium levels in your blood. Within this framework, you'll find incredible examples of specialization. The smallest bone in your entire body is the stapes, located in your middle ear. It's about the size of a grain of rice and is a critical component of your hearing, transmitting sound vibrations to the inner ear. Without this minuscule bone, the world would be silent. At the other end of the spectrum is the femur, or thigh bone. It is the longest, heaviest, and strongest bone in the human body. Pound for pound, your femur is stronger than steel. It's capable of supporting up to 30 times your own body weight, a feat of natural engineering that allows you to run, jump, and carry heavy loads. Its incredible strength comes from its hollow, cylindrical structure, a design that provides maximum strength for minimum weight, a principle that engineers have copied in architecture and construction for centuries. And what about the stuff that moves those bones? Your body contains over 600 muscles, which work together to allow for everything from the powerful strides of a sprinter to the delicate movements required to thread a needle. When it comes to pure, pound-for-pound strength, the title of the strongest muscle is often given to the masseter, the primary muscle you use for chewing. Your jaw can close with a force of up to 200 pounds on your molars. But if you're talking about the muscle that exerts the most force overall, that honor goes to the gluteus maximus, the large muscle of your buttocks that helps keep your torso upright. And for endurance, no muscle can compare to the heart, which, as we've already seen, works continuously for a lifetime. But perhaps the most interesting thing is that muscles can only pull, they can't push. Every movement in your body is the result of muscles working in opposing pairs. When you bend your arm, your bicep contracts, pulls, and your tricep relaxes. To straighten your arm, the opposite happens. Your tricep contracts and your bicep relaxes. It's a beautifully simple and efficient system of push and pull mechanics that powers every single motion you make. Sometimes, those muscles do things we can't control, like when you get goosebumps. Those little bumps that appear on your skin when you're cold or scared are actually caused by tiny muscles called erector pili muscles. Each one is attached to an individual hair follicle. When they contract, they pull the hair upright, which in our furry ancestors would have trapped a layer of air for insulation or made them appear larger to a predator. For modern humans, it's a largely useless evolutionary leftover, a fascinating echo of our ancient past still written on our skin. It's a perfect example of how our bodies are living museums, carrying features and reflexes that tell the story of our long evolutionary journey from a very different world to the one we inhabit today. Let's head back to the digestive system, a place of incredible chemical transformation. Your stomach is a hostile environment, and for good reason. The acid inside your stomach, primarily hydrochloric acid, is incredibly potent, with a pH between 1.5 and 3.5. That makes it strong enough to dissolve razor blades. This acidic cauldron isn't just for breaking down the food you eat. It's also a crucial first line of defense, obliterating most of the bacteria and viruses that you inevitably swallow along with your meals. The obvious question then is, why doesn't this powerful acid dissolve the stomach itself? The answer lies in a brilliant, multi-layered defense system. The stomach is lined with a thick layer of mucus that acts as a physical barrier. Specialized cells in the stomach lining also secrete bicarbonate, an alkaline substance that neutralizes the acid right at the stomach wall. And finally, as mentioned before, the cells of the stomach lining regenerate at a phenomenal rate, with you getting an entirely new lining every 3 to 4 days. It's a constant, high-stakes balancing act between powerful digestion and self-preservation. Once food leaves the stomach, it embarks on a long and winding journey through your intestines. The small intestine, despite its name, is actually the longest part of your digestive tract, measuring around 22 feet long in the average adult. If you were to spread out all the tiny finger-like projections called villi that line its surface, its total surface area would be enormous, covering the size of a tennis court. This massive surface area is crucial for absorbing the maximum amount of nutrients from your food. After the small intestine, the journey continues through the large intestine, which is about 5 feet long. The entire path from mouth to exit can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours, a slow, methodical process of extraction and absorption that wrings every last bit of value from the things you consume. A key player in this whole process is the liver, the body's largest internal organ and a true multitasking genius. Your liver performs over 500 vital functions. It acts as a filter, detoxifying your blood by removing harmful substances like alcohol and drugs. It's a chemical processing plant, producing bile to help digest fats. It's a storage facility, holding on to essential vitamins and minerals. It helps regulate blood sugar levels, produces cholesterol, and synthesizes important proteins for blood clotting. But perhaps its most incredible ability is regeneration. The liver has a remarkable capacity to regrow. You can surgically remove up to 70% of a healthy liver, and it can grow back to its original size within a matter of weeks. This incredible regenerative power is unique among human organs and is a major reason why living donor liver transplants are possible. It's a testament to the resilience and adaptability built into our biology. Let's move on to the systems that allow us to perceive the world, our senses. Your eyes are biological cameras of breathtaking complexity and power. While the comparison isn't perfect, if your eye were a digital camera, it would have a resolution of around 576 megapixels. For context, the best high-end consumer cameras on the market today top out at around 100–150 megapixels. Your eyes can distinguish between approximately 10 million different colors and can detect a single photon of light in a dark room. The processing that happens is just as incredible. The images that land on your retinas are actually upside down and two-dimensional. It's your brain that flawlessly flips the image right side up and combines the two slightly different perspectives from each eye to create the seamless, three-dimensional, high-definition world you experience every waking moment. And your eyes are constantly in motion, making tiny, rapid movements called saccades 3 to 4 times per second, scanning your environment and piecing together a complete picture without you ever being aware of it. But when it comes to sheer sensitivity, your sense of smell might just have your vision beat. Your nose contains around 400 different types of scent receptors, which, working in combination, allow you to distinguish between at least 1 trillion different odors. That's a 1 followed by 12 zeros. You can detect certain molecules at concentrations of a few parts per trillion. Your sense of smell is also uniquely and powerfully linked to memory and emotion. This is because the olfactory bulb, the part of your brain that processes smell, has direct connections to the amygdala and hippocampus, the brain regions that handle emotion and memory respectively. This is why a particular scent, like freshly baked cookies or a specific perfume, can instantly transport you back in time to a vivid, emotionally charged memory in a way that no other sense can. It's a direct, unfiltered hotline to your past. What about your sense of touch? The skin on your fingertips is incredibly sensitive, packed with a high density of nerve endings. This sensitivity allows you to detect features on a surface that are just 13 nanometers high. A nanometer is a billionth of a meter. To put that in perspective, a sheet of paper is about 100,000 nanometers thick. This means your fingers can feel textures on a molecular level. And it's this sensitivity, combined with the unique patterns of ridges on your fingertips, that gives us fingerprints. No 2 people in the world, not even identical twins, have the same fingerprints. These ridges are formed before you were born and are determined by a combination of your genetic code and the random pressures and movements within the womb. They provide friction, helping you grip objects, but they also make each of us uniquely identifiable in a way that is truly remarkable. Let's move on to some of the body's more peculiar and surprising abilities. For instance, did you know that you are taller in the morning than you are in the evening? Throughout the day, the gravity of Earth compresses the cartilage in your spine and other joints. As you walk and stand, the fluid is squeezed out, causing you to shrink by as much as a full centimeter by the end of the day. When you lie down to sleep at night, the pressure is taken off your spine, allowing the cartilage discs to decompress and reabsorb fluid. As a result, when you wake up in the morning, you are back to your full height. It's a daily cycle of shrinking and growing that happens to all of us. And here's one that sounds like science fiction, but it's absolutely true. Your body literally glows in the dark. All living things, including humans, produce a tiny amount of light as a byproduct of metabolic chemical reactions, a phenomenon known as bioluminescence. This light is about 1,000 times less intense than the level our naked eyes are able to perceive, so you can't see it without highly specialized cameras. Scientists have found that this faint glow varies throughout the day, with the brightest emissions coming from the cheeks, forehead, and neck in the late afternoon. While we don't know the exact purpose of this human glow, it's a mesmerizing thought that every one of us is emitting a faint, invisible light, a silent energy signature of life itself. Our bodies also produce a surprising amount of liquid. The average person produces enough saliva in their lifetime to fill 2 swimming pools. Saliva is more than just water. It's a complex fluid containing enzymes that kickstart the process of digestion before the food even leaves your mouth, as well as antibacterial compounds that help maintain oral hygiene. It lubricates your food so you can swallow it and helps your taste buds detect flavor. Without it, eating would be a difficult and far less enjoyable experience. We produce it constantly, a silent, vital river that aids in one of life's most fundamental processes. When it comes to explosive power, few bodily functions can match a sneeze. A sneeze is a powerful, involuntary expulsion of air from the lungs through the nose and mouth. The air from a forceful sneeze can travel at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. The primary purpose of this violent outburst is to clear the nasal passages of irritants like dust, pollen, or viruses. The fine spray of droplets that a sneeze produces can travel several feet, which is why covering your mouth when you sneeze is so important for preventing the spread of germs. It's a biological rocket launcher designed to keep your airways clear. And the reason you can't keep your eyes open when you sneeze is due to an involuntary reflex arc. The powerful muscle contractions involved in a sneeze trigger a signal that forces your eyelids to close, possibly as a protective mechanism for your eyes. Let's look at another common but mysterious bodily function: yawning. For a long time, the prevailing theory was that we yawn to take in more oxygen when our blood levels are low. However, studies have debunked this. The current leading theory is that yawning is actually a thermoregulatory mechanism. It's a way for the body to cool down an overheated brain. The deep inhalation of cooler air and the stretching of the jaw increases blood flow to the skull, helping to dissipate heat. This might explain why we tend to yawn more when we're tired, as brain temperature rises with sleep deprivation. And of course, yawning is famously contagious. Seeing, hearing, or even just thinking about someone yawning can trigger you to do it yourself. This social aspect is thought to be linked to empathy and social bonding, rooted in the pack animal instincts of our ancestors. And what about hiccups? That annoying, rhythmic spasm is caused by an involuntary contraction of your diaphragm, the large muscle at the base of your lungs that controls breathing. Each contraction is followed by a sudden closure of your vocal cords, which produces the characteristic hic sound. Hiccups can be triggered by a variety of things, from eating too fast and swallowing air to sudden excitement or stress. While most bouts of hiccups last only a few minutes, the world record for the longest continuous bout of hiccups belongs to an American man named Charles Osborne, who hiccuped continuously for 68 years, from 1922 to 1990. It's a bizarre and extreme example of a common bodily reflex gone haywire. Let's turn our attention back to the brain and its relationship with the body. You have what is often referred to as a second brain located in your gut. Officially known as the enteric nervous system, this is a complex network of over 100 million neurons embedded in the walls of your digestive tract, from the esophagus all the way down to the rectum. That's more neurons than are found in your entire spinal cord. This gut brain manages the complex process of digestion independently, without needing direct instructions from the brain in your head. But the communication is a two-way street. The enteric nervous system sends a vast amount of information up to the brain, which is why you can feel butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous, or a gut-wrenching feeling with bad news. The health of your gut microbiome can influence the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, a key mood regulator, and up to 90% of your body's serotonin is actually produced in your gut. This intricate connection, the gut-brain axis, is a rapidly growing field of research and is fundamentally changing our understanding of how our digestive health impacts our mental and emotional well-being. Your body is also an incredible chemical factory. Take, for example, the simple act of looking at someone you love. This can trigger your brain to release a cocktail of chemicals, including dopamine, the pleasure chemical, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and vasopressin. This flood of neurochemicals creates the intense feelings of euphoria, attachment, and contentment associated with love and attraction. It's a powerful reminder that our most profound emotions have a tangible, physical basis in the chemistry of our brains. Every feeling, from joy to fear, is the result of a precise and complex dance of molecules within your neural pathways. Even your tears are chemically specialized. Humans produce 3 different types of tears. Basal tears are the ones that constantly lubricate your eyes. Reflex tears are produced in response to irritants, like smoke or onions, and work to wash them away. But the most interesting are emotional tears. When you cry due to sadness, joy, or stress, the chemical composition of your tears is different. Emotional tears have been found to contain higher concentrations of stress hormones like prolactin and adrenocorticotropic hormone, as well as a natural painkiller called leucine and enkephalin. This suggests that crying is not just a psychological release, but a physical one as well, a way for your body to literally purge itself of stress-related chemicals and self-soothe. Let's talk about water. Your body is composed of about 60% water. This water is not just sloshing around. It's a fundamental component of every cell, tissue, and organ. It's the solvent in which most of the body's chemical reactions take place. It helps regulate your internal temperature, it lubricates your joints, and it transports nutrients and waste products. The brain and heart are composed of about 73% water, and the lungs are about 83% water. Even your bones are about 31% water. Losing just 2% of your body's water content can lead to dehydration, causing fatigue, dizziness, and impaired cognitive function. Water is the matrix of life, the essential medium in which the entire miracle of your biology unfolds. And your body has a sophisticated system for managing this water balance, your kidneys. These two bean-shaped organs are your body's master filtration system. Every day, your kidneys filter about 180 liters, or 45 gallons, of blood. That means your entire blood supply gets filtered and cleaned approximately 40 times every single day. As they filter the blood, they remove waste products and excess water to produce urine, while carefully reabsorbing the vital nutrients and water your body needs to keep. They are constantly fine-tuning the levels of salts, minerals, and water in your blood, maintaining the delicate internal chemical balance known as homeostasis that is essential for your survival. They are the unsung heroes of your internal environment, working silently and efficiently around the clock. Let's get back to some superlatives. While the femur is the strongest bone, what about the hardest substance in your body? That title belongs to tooth enamel. The shiny white outer layer of your teeth is the most highly mineralized substance your body produces, even harder than bone. It's made almost entirely of a mineral called hydroxyapatite. This incredible hardness is necessary to withstand the immense pressures of chewing and grinding food over a lifetime. However, unlike bone, enamel cannot regenerate. Once it's gone, due to decay or damage, it's gone for good, which is why protecting it through good dental hygiene is so critically important. At the other end of the physical spectrum, let's consider something incredibly soft and vital: your lungs. Your lungs are not just empty bags that fill with air. They are composed of a spongy, intricate network of branching airways that end in tiny air sacs called alveoli. You have about 300 million of these alveoli in each lung. It is here that the magic of gas exchange happens, where oxygen from the air you breathe passes into your bloodstream and carbon dioxide from your body is released. If you were to flatten out the entire surface area of all these alveoli, they would cover an area roughly the size of a tennis court. This massive surface area is what allows for the rapid, efficient exchange of gases that your body needs to survive. And remarkably, you don't really need both lungs to be at full capacity. It is possible to live a relatively normal life with just one lung, a testament to the built-in redundancy and resilience of the human body. Let's look at the incredible process of hearing. The sound waves that travel to your ear are channeled into the ear canal, where they hit the eardrum, causing it to vibrate. These vibrations are then transferred through those three tiny bones in your middle ear: the malleus, incus, and the stapes, the smallest bone we talked about earlier. The stapes then pushes on a membrane called the oval window, transmitting the vibrations into the fluid-filled cochlea of the inner ear. Inside the cochlea are thousands of microscopic hair cells. As the fluid vibrates, it bends these tiny hairs, which converts the mechanical vibrations into electrical signals. These signals are then sent along the auditory nerve to the brain, where they are interpreted as sound. The entire, incredibly complex mechanical and electrical process happens so fast that it feels instantaneous. Your brain can even determine the direction a sound is coming from by calculating the minuscule time difference between when the sound reaches each of your two ears. And the range of that hearing is astonishing, especially when you are young. A healthy young person can hear frequencies ranging from about 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. As we age, we tend to lose the ability to hear the higher frequencies, a condition known as presbycusis. This is why some teenagers can hear high-pitched ringtones on their phones that are completely inaudible to their parents and teachers. Your ears are exquisitely sensitive instruments, capable of detecting the faintest whispers and enduring the loudest roars, translating the physical vibrations of the world into the rich and meaningful soundscape of your life. Now, let's zoom in to the truly microscopic level again. We've talked about your DNA, but let's consider its code. About 99.9% of the DNA is the same in every single human on Earth. The tiny 0.1% that is different is what accounts for all the incredible diversity we see in our species. The differences in our appearance, our susceptibility to certain diseases, and our unique individual traits. It's a profound thought that everything that makes you visually and genetically distinct from the other 8 billion people on the planet is encoded in just 1/10 of 1% of your genetic code. We are, at our core, profoundly similar. Yet these tiny variations create the beautiful tapestry of human individuality. Even more surprising is how much of our DNA doesn't seem to do anything at all. For a long time, scientists referred to the vast majority of our genome as junk DNA because it didn't code for proteins. We now know that this term is a misnomer. Much of this non-coding DNA is actually crucial for regulating gene activity, acting like a complex system of switches that turn genes on and off at the right times and in the right places. It's the orchestra conductor for our genetic symphony. And some of it is truly ancient. Around 8% of the human genome is composed of DNA from ancient viruses that infected our ancestors millions of years ago. These viral sequences, known as endogenous retroviruses, inserted themselves into our DNA and have been passed down through generations. Most are inactive, but some have been co-opted by our bodies to perform useful functions, demonstrating the incredible way that evolution can repurpose old junk into new treasure. Let's talk about energy. The powerhouses of your cells are tiny organelles called mitochondria. These are often referred to as the cellular batteries because they are responsible for converting the nutrients from the food you eat into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the primary energy currency of the cell. Every cell in your body contains hundreds or even thousands of these tiny power plants. What's fascinating about mitochondria is that they have their own separate DNA, completely distinct from the DNA in your cell's nucleus. And you inherit your mitochondrial DNA exclusively from your mother. This is because the mitochondria in a sperm cell are located in its tail, which falls off during fertilization. This matrilineal inheritance allows scientists to trace human ancestry back through generations, leading to the concept of a mitochondrial Eve, the most recent common ancestor from whom all living humans descend on their mother's side. Your body also produces its own painkiller, a substance more powerful than morphine. When you experience intense stress or pain, such as during strenuous exercise, the runner's high, or after an injury, your brain releases a class of neurotransmitters called endorphins. These are endogenous opioids, meaning they are produced by your own body. They bind to the same receptors in the brain that opioid drugs like morphine do, blocking the perception of pain and producing feelings of euphoria. It's your body's built-in, all-natural system for managing pain and stress, a potent internal pharmacy that can be activated when you need it most. Let's consider the beginning of life.
The largest cell in the human body is the female egg, or ovum.
It is about the size of the period at the end of this sentence, making it just barely visible to the naked eye. In stark contrast, the smallest cell in the human body is the male sperm cell. It is so small that it takes about 175,000 sperm cells to equal the weight of a single egg cell. It is the fusion of these two extremes, the largest and the smallest of human cells, that contains all the genetic information needed to create a new and unique human life. And babies have some very strange features. For example, babies are born without kneecaps. They have a structure of soft cartilage in that area, which doesn't fully ossify into hard bone until they are between 2 and 6 years old. This flexibility is advantageous as toddlers fall down frequently, and soft cartilage is more resilient to the constant bumps and tumbles than hard bone would be. It's a clever design feature for the clumsy early years of life. Babies also have more taste buds than adults. Their taste buds are not just on their tongues, but also on the sides, back, and roof of their mouths. This heightened sense of taste is why they can be so sensitive to different flavors. As we age, the number of our taste buds decreases and they become less sensitive, which might explain why our food preferences can change so dramatically from childhood to adulthood. Things that tasted overwhelmingly bitter as a child might become pleasantly palatable as an adult. Let's talk about dreams. Everyone dreams, even if you don't remember them. We typically have several dreams each night, primarily during the REM, rapid eye movement stage of sleep. During REM sleep, your brain is almost as active as it is when you're awake. To prevent you from physically acting out your dreams, your brain releases a hormone that temporarily paralyzes your voluntary muscles. This state is called REM atonia. It's a built-in safety mechanism. Sometimes, this system glitches, which can lead to sleepwalking if the paralysis fails, or sleep paralysis if you wake up before the paralysis wears off. The purpose of dreaming is still a topic of intense scientific debate, with theories ranging from memory consolidation, emotional regulation, to problem-solving and threat simulation. It remains one of the great mysteries of human consciousness. The human body has an incredible ability to adapt to its environment. For example, if you live at a high altitude where oxygen is scarcer, your body will adapt over time by producing more red blood cells. This increases the oxygen-carrying capacity of your blood to compensate for the thinner air. This process of acclimatization is a beautiful example of the body's plasticity and its ability to recalibrate itself to survive in different conditions. Another example is the way your pupils dilate in the dark to let in more light and constrict in bright light to protect your retina. These are just a few of the thousands of automatic adjustments your body is constantly making to keep you functioning optimally in a changing world. Let's consider the speed of thought. While nerve impulses are fast, the actual process of conscious thought is not instantaneous. It takes your brain a fraction of a second to process sensory information and react to it. For example, the average human reaction time to a visual stimulus is around 250 milliseconds, or a quarter of a second. That might not sound like much, but in that brief window, the light has to hit your retina, the signal has to travel to your brain has to process the image, make a decision, and then send a signal to your muscles to react. It's a complex chain of events that unfolds in the blink of an eye. Your brain also filters your reality. You are constantly being bombarded with an overwhelming amount of sensory information. Your brain can't possibly pay attention to all of it. So, it acts as a filter, deciding what's important and what can be ignored. This is why you can be in a crowded, noisy room and still be able to focus on a single conversation, a phenomenon known as the cocktail party effect. It's also why you often don't notice the feeling of your clothes on your skin or the sound of your own breathing until your attention is drawn to it.
your brain is constantly making executive decisions about what gets to enter your conscious awareness, creating a streamlined and manageable version of reality for you to navigate. Your body is also surprisingly resilient to damage. We talked about the liver's regenerative abilities, but other parts of your body have their own tricks. Your stomach lining replaces itself every few days. Your skin is constantly renewing, and your bones are masters of self-repair. When you break a bone, your body immediately begins a complex healing process. It forms a blood clot around the break, which is then replaced by a soft callus of cartilage. Over the next few weeks, this soft callus is gradually replaced by a hard callus of new bone, which is then remodeled over several months until it is as strong as or even stronger than the original bone. It's an incredible, multi-stage construction project that your body manages automatically. Let's talk about the uniqueness of you. We've mentioned fingerprints, but they aren't the only unique identifier. Your tongue print is also completely unique to you. The shape, texture, and ridges on your tongue form a pattern that is as individual as a fingerprint. Similarly, the pattern of blood vessels in the back of your eye, your retina, is also unique, and so is your ear shape.
Your body is filled with these markers of individuality, subtle and overt reminders that there has never been and will never be anyone else exactly like you. Even your smell is unique. Unless you have an identical twin, your body odor is as unique as your fingerprint. This unique scent is determined by a combination of genetics, diet, and the specific composition of the bacteria living on your skin. Your body is constantly emitting a cloud of volatile organic compounds that create your own personal scent signature. This is what allows bloodhounds to track a specific person and is a subtle but powerful part of how we identify and interact with each other on a subconscious level. Let's address a common myth. You don't use only 10% of your brain. This is one of the most persistent and widespread myths about the human body. Brain scans have shown that we use virtually every part of our brain and that most of the brain is active almost all the time. Even when you are sleeping, your brain is busy with vital functions like controlling your breathing and consolidating memories. Different tasks may activate different regions more intensely, but there are no dormant, unused areas waiting to be unlocked. You are using your whole brain, a powerful and efficient organ that works tirelessly to create your reality. Let's consider the strange case of goosebumps again, but from a different angle. The muscle that causes them, the erector pili, is a type of smooth muscle. We have three types of muscle in our bodies. Skeletal muscle, which is the voluntary muscle we use to move our bones, cardiac muscle, which is the involuntary muscle of the heart, and smooth muscle, which is the involuntary muscle found in the walls of our internal organs, like the stomach, intestines, and blood vessels. You have no conscious control over your smooth muscles. They work silently in the background, digesting your food, regulating your blood pressure, and, yes, giving you goosebumps. They are the unsung workforce of your autonomic nervous system. Your body is also an excellent heat producer. The average human body at rest generates about the same amount of heat as a 100-watt incandescent light bulb. This heat is a byproduct of all the metabolic processes happening in your cells. During strenuous exercise, your heat output can increase tenfold. This is why a crowded room can heat up so quickly. It's filled with dozens of human-sized light bulbs, all radiating thermal energy. Your body has sophisticated mechanisms, like sweating and redirecting blood flow, to dissipate this excess heat and maintain a stable internal temperature of around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, the optimal temperature for all your vital chemical reactions. Let's talk about bone again, but from the perspective of production. We mentioned bone marrow is where red blood cells are made, but that's just the start. Your bone marrow is a veritable factory for your entire blood supply. It produces not just red blood cells, but also white blood cells, the soldiers of your immune system, and platelets,
the tiny cell fragments that are essential for blood clotting. Every single day, your bone marrow produces hundreds of billions of new blood cells, replacing the ones that are old or have been used up. It's a continuous, high-volume manufacturing operation that is absolutely critical for your survival. Your immune system itself is a marvel of biological warfare. It is a complex, multi-layered defense network composed of trillions of cells, proteins, and organs that work together to protect you from an endless barrage of pathogens like bacteria, viruses, and fungi. It has an incredible ability to distinguish between self, your own cells, and non-self, foreign invaders. And it has a memory. When you are exposed to a specific pathogen, like the chickenpox virus, your immune system creates memory cells. If that same virus ever tries to invade again, years or even decades later, these memory cells will recognize it instantly and mount a rapid and powerful defense, preventing you from getting sick a second time. This is the principle behind vaccines, which train your immune system to recognize a threat without you ever having to experience the actual disease. Let's look at the electrical side of your body. We know nerve impulses are electrical signals, but your heart is also an electrical powerhouse. The coordinated contraction of your heart muscle is controlled by a precise wave of electrical stimulation. An electrocardiogram, or EKG, is a test that measures this electrical activity. The familiar beep, beep, beep of a heart monitor is the sound of your heart's electrical rhythm. This electrical field is so strong that it can be detected anywhere on the surface of your skin, a testament to the powerful electrical engine at the very center of your being. Your body also has an amazing sense of its own position, known as proprioception. Close your eyes and touch your finger to the tip of your nose. The reason you can do that without looking is because of proprioception. Specialized sensory receptors located in your muscles, tendons, and joints are constantly sending information to your brain about the position and movement of your body parts. This creates a dynamic, internal map of your body in space, allowing you to move and coordinate your limbs without having to consciously think about where they are. It's your body's own internal GPS system, and it's what allows you to walk without looking at your feet or type without looking at the keyboard. Let's talk about balance. Your sense of balance is controlled by the vestibular system located in your inner ear. It consists of 3 semicircular canals and 2 otolith organs. The canals are filled with fluid and are oriented in 3 different planes. When you move your head, the fluid sloshes around and moves tiny hair cells, sending signals to your brain about your head's rotation. The otolith organs contain tiny crystals that shift in response to gravity and linear acceleration, telling your brain which way is up and whether you're moving forward, backward, or side to side. Your brain then integrates this information with signals from your eyes and your proprioceptive system to give you a seamless and stable sense of balance, allowing you to stand, walk, and run without toppling over. Your body is also full of empty space. While you are made of trillions of cells, those cells are made of atoms, and atoms are almost entirely empty space. The nucleus of an atom is incredibly tiny compared to the space in which the electrons orbit. If the nucleus of a hydrogen atom were the size of a marble, its electron would be orbiting at a distance of over half a mile away. This means that all the solid matter that makes you feel so substantial is, at a fundamental level, more than 99.99999% empty space. The feeling of solidity comes from the electromagnetic forces between the atoms, which repel each other and prevent you from passing through the floor. You are, in essence, a beautifully organized cloud of mostly nothingness, held together by fundamental forces. Let's talk about the incredible power of your voice. This causes them to vibrate. The pitch of your voice is determined by the frequency of these vibrations, which you can change by tightening or relaxing the vocal cords. The sound is then modified and amplified by your throat, mouth, and nose, which act as a resonating chamber. The fine motor control you have over your tongue, lips, and jaw allows you to shape this sound into the complex phonemes of speech. It's a wind instrument, a string instrument, and a percussion instrument all rolled into one, capable of producing an incredible range of sounds, from a whisper to a shout, from a mournful song to a joyful laugh. Your body can also survive for a surprisingly long time without certain things. You can survive for about 3 weeks without food. Your body is well equipped for this, having stores of fat and glycogen that it can break down for energy. However, you can only survive for about 3 days without water. Water is so critical for all of your body's functions that its absence is quickly catastrophic. And most critically, you can only survive for about 3 minutes without air. Your brain cells are incredibly sensitive to oxygen deprivation and begin to die within minutes of being cut off from their supply. This rule of threes is a stark reminder of the body's most immediate and non-negotiable needs. Even your waste products are more interesting than you think. Urine, for example, is about 95% water, but the other 5% contains a wealth of information about your health. The color, density, and pH of your urine can indicate your level of hydration and give clues about potential medical conditions. For most of history, tasting a patient's urine was a common diagnostic tool for physicians. For example, sweet-tasting urine was a key indicator of diabetes, as the body was unable to process sugar properly and was expelling it. While we have more sophisticated methods today, it's a reminder that even our body's waste is a complex biological output. Let's go back to the beginning, to the blueprint. While your DNA is your master plan, the instructions are carried out by another molecule called RNA. Think of DNA as the master blueprint safely stored in the architect's office, the nucleus. RNA is like a photocopy of a specific section of that blueprint that is taken out to the construction site, the cytoplasm, to give instructions to the workers, the ribosomes, who build the proteins. This process of transcription, DNA to RNA, and translation, RNA to protein, is the fundamental basis of how your genetic code is expressed and turned into the physical substance of you. Your body is also a master of recycling. When your red blood cells reach the end of their 120-day lifespan, they are broken down in the spleen and liver. The iron from the hemoglobin is carefully recycled and sent back to the bone marrow to be used in the production of new red blood cells. The rest of the hemoglobin molecule is broken down into a compound called bilirubin, which is a component of bile and is what gives feces its characteristic brown color and urine its yellow color. It's a perfect closed-loop system that wastes nothing. Let's look at the strange connection between blinking and perception. The average person blinks about 15 to 20 times per minute. If you add it all up, your eyes are closed for about 10% of your waking hours. You might think this would cause you to experience constant blackouts, but you don't. This is because your brain has a clever trick. It actively suppresses visual processing during a blink. It essentially ignores the brief moment of darkness, stitching your perception together so you experience a continuous, uninterrupted stream of vision. It's another example of how your brain actively constructs your reality, editing out the irrelevant details to create a smooth and seamless experience. The human body can also withstand extreme forces. Fighter pilots and astronauts undergo training in centrifuges to prepare them for the intense G-forces of high-speed maneuvers and rocket launches. A trained person can withstand up to 9 Gs, 9 times the force of gravity, for a short period before losing consciousness, as the force makes it difficult for the heart to pump blood to the brain. On the other hand, the human body is also remarkably adapted to the weightlessness of space, although it comes with its own set of challenges, like muscle atrophy and bone density loss, as the body starts to deconstruct what it no longer needs in a zero-gravity environment. Let's talk about the production of sound beyond the voice. The growling sound your stomach makes, technically called borborygmi, isn't necessarily a sign of hunger. It's the sound of the normal muscular contractions, peristalsis, of your stomach and intestines as they push food, fluid, and gas through your digestive tract. This process is always happening, but it's much louder and more noticeable when your stomach is empty because there's no food to muffle the sound. So, a rumbling stomach is just the sound of your digestive system doing its job. The cracking sound your knuckles make has been a source of debate for years. For a long time, it was thought to be the sound of a bubble of gas popping. More recent imaging studies have shown that it's actually the sound of a cavity forming in the synovial fluid, the lubricating fluid in your joints. When you stretch the joint, you lower the pressure in the fluid, allowing dissolved gases to rush in and form a bubble. It's the formation, not the popping of this bubble, that creates the sound. And despite what your parents might have told you, there is no evidence that cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. Let's consider the liver again, but its role as a storage depot. Your liver stores a form of glucose called glycogen. When your blood sugar levels drop, your liver can quickly break down this stored glycogen and release glucose into the bloodstream to provide a rapid energy boost. You have enough stored glycogen in your liver and muscles to fuel you for about a day of normal activity. This is the body's short-term energy reserve, a readily accessible fuel tank that keeps you going between meals. The human body is also surprisingly buoyant. Thanks to the air in our lungs and the fat content in our bodies, most people will naturally float in water. Fat is less dense than water, while muscle and bone are denser. The ability to float depends on your individual body composition. This natural buoyancy is a property we share with many marine mammals and is a fascinating aspect of our physical relationship with the element of water. Let's discuss the power of adaptation in our senses. When you first enter a dark room, you can't see anything. But over several minutes, your eyes adapt. Your pupils dilate to let in more light, and your retinas switch from using their cone cells, which see color and detail in bright light, to their rod cells, which are much more sensitive and detect black and white in low light. This process, called dark adaptation, can increase your eye's sensitivity to light by a factor of 100,000 or more, allowing you to navigate in near total darkness. It's a slow but incredibly powerful recalibration of your visual system. Your body also has a surprising connection to electricity in the atmosphere. Some people claim they can feel an approaching storm, often through an ache in their joints. While it sounds like folklore, there may be some science to it. Changes in barometric pressure, which often precede a storm, could theoretically cause a slight expansion or contraction of the tissues and fluids around the joints, potentially irritating the nerves in people with arthritis or previous injuries. While the connection is still debated, it's a fascinating look at how our internal ecosystems might be subtly influenced by the larger weather systems around us. Let's talk about the appendix. For a long time, the appendix was considered a vestigial organ, a useless, evolutionary leftover with no function. However, recent research suggests that the appendix may actually have a purpose. It appears to act as a safe house for the beneficial bacteria in your gut. During a serious gastrointestinal illness that flushes out the intestines, the good bacteria hiding in the appendix can emerge afterward to help repopulate the gut and restore a healthy microbiome. So rather than being useless, it may be a vital backup system for your internal ecosystem. The human body can also create its own fever. A fever is not an illness in itself, but a defense mechanism. When your immune system detects a pathogen, it releases chemicals called pyrogens that travel to the hypothalamus in your brain, which acts as your body's thermostat. These pyrogens essentially tell the hypothalamus to turn up the heat. The increased body temperature can inhibit the growth of some bacteria and viruses and can make your immune system more effective. A fever is a sign that your body is actively and powerfully fighting off an infection. Let's consider reflexes. A reflex is an involuntary and nearly instantaneous movement in response to a stimulus. When a doctor taps your knee with a hammer, it stretches the patellar tendon, which sends a signal up a sensory neuron to your spinal cord. In the spinal cord, the signal immediately connects to a motor neuron, which sends a signal back down to your quadriceps muscle, causing it to contract and your leg to kick. The signal doesn't even have to travel all the way to your brain to be processed. This reflex arc is a hardwired shortcut that allows for incredibly fast reactions, designed to protect the body from harm before the brain even has time to consciously register the threat. Your body also has a unique way of dealing with carbon dioxide. When you exercise, your muscles produce lactic acid and carbon dioxide, which makes your blood more acidic. Your brain is incredibly sensitive to this change in blood pH. Chemoreceptors in your brain and major arteries detect the increased acidity and send a powerful signal to your respiratory center, forcing you to breathe faster and deeper. Your urge to breathe is driven not by a lack of oxygen, but by the need to get rid of excess carbon dioxide. It's a beautifully precise feedback loop that maintains your blood's delicate chemical balance. The human tongue is not mapped into different taste zones. The classic tongue map you may have learned in school, with sweet at the tip, sour at the sides, and bitter at the back, is a myth. It was based on a misinterpretation of a 19th century study. In reality, all of your taste buds, which are located all over your tongue, are capable of detecting all 5 of the basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. While some areas might be slightly more sensitive to certain tastes than others, the differences are negligible. Your bones are stronger than concrete. We mentioned the femur is stronger than steel pound for pound, but let's put it another way. A block of bone the size of a matchbox can support a load of up to 9 tons, which is 4 times more than a similar-sized block of concrete can withstand. This incredible strength comes from its composite structure, a matrix of hard mineral crystals, calcium phosphate, woven into a flexible framework of collagen fibers. This combination gives bone both its rigidity and its resistance to fracture, a masterpiece of material science. You can actually see with your ears, in a way. The phenomenon of echolocation, famously used by bats and dolphins, can also be learned by humans, particularly those who are visually impaired. By making clicking sounds with their mouth and listening to the echoes that bounce back from surrounding objects, skilled echolocators can form a detailed mental map of their environment, allowing them to perceive the size, shape, and location of objects and even see well enough to ride a bicycle. It's a stunning example of the brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to repurpose other senses to compensate for the loss of one. Let's end with a look at the sheer wonder of our atomic origins. Nearly every atom that makes up your body, the carbon in your proteins, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, was forged in the heart of a star that lived and died billions of years ago. When massive stars reach the end of their lives, they explode in a cataclysmic event called a supernova, scattering these newly created heavy elements across the cosmos. Over billions of years, these elements coalesced to form new stars, new planets, and eventually everything on Earth, including you. You are not just a universe of cells. You are, quite literally, made of stardust. And one final mind-bending fact to leave you with. The atoms that compose your body are just temporary arrangements. Every few years, most of them are swapped out and replaced. The atoms that are you right now were once part of the air, the water, the food you ate. They were once part of plants, animals, and other people. And in the future, they will disperse again to become part of something new. You are not a static object, but a flowing, ever-changing pattern. A temporary, beautiful, and impossibly complex eddy in the great cosmic river of matter and energy. From the cosmic length of our DNA to the stardust in our bones, from the silent, tireless work of our cells to the lightning-fast snarl of our thoughts, the human body is the most magnificent machine we will ever encounter. We've seen how you are a walking galaxy of cells, powered by a universe of chemical reactions, containing oceans of water and highways that could circle the globe. We've explored the silent, automatic genius that keeps you breathing, thinking, and feeling, moment by moment, day by day, without a single conscious command from you. The single greatest marvel in the known universe isn't out there in the distant cosmos, it's right here. It's you. Every breath you take is a triumph of engineering. Every heartbeat is a symphony of physics. Every thought is a miracle of biology. So take a moment today to appreciate the incredible, the improbable, and the utterly amazing fact of your own existence. You are a masterpiece of evolution, a vessel of consciousness, and a wonder beyond all telling. Stay curious. And that very curiosity, that innate drive to question and explore, is itself a profound biological process. It is not some abstract philosophical concept. It is a neurological state, a cascade of chemical signals that physically reconfigures the landscape of your brain. When you encounter something new or puzzling, your brain's reward system, particularly an area called the ventral tegmental area, kicks into gear. It releases a surge of dopamine, the very same neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This dopamine flood doesn't just feel good, it acts like a save button for the brain, tagging the new information as important and enhancing the formation of long-term memories in the hippocampus. Curiosity primes the brain for learning. It opens the gates of attention, motivates exploration, and makes the subsequent learning more rewarding and more permanent. It is the engine of neuroplasticity, the biological imperative that compels your 100 trillion synapses to reach out, to form new connections, to grow, and to change. The desire to know is written into the very wiring of your command center. This wiring is modulated by an entire orchestra of chemical messengers, the neurotransmitters we've touched upon. Let's delve deeper into this invisible world of molecular communication that governs your every thought and action. Consider acetylcholine. It was the very first neurotransmitter to be discovered, and it is a true jack of all trades. In your body, at the junction between a nerve and a muscle, acetylcholine is the chemical that carries the command to move. When your brain decides to lift your arm, a signal flashes down a motor neuron, and at its very end, tiny packets of acetylcholine are released. They leap across a microscopic gap and bind to receptors on the muscle fiber, throwing open ion channels and triggering a wave of electrical excitation that causes the muscle to contract. Every single voluntary movement you make, from blinking to running a marathon, is initiated by this precise, lightning-fast chemical handshake. But its role doesn't end there. Within the brain, acetylcholine is a master conductor of memory and attention. It helps to focus your consciousness, to sharpen your perception, and is absolutely critical for the process of learning and forming new memories. The brain areas most associated with memory, like the hippocampus, are rich with acetylcholine receptors. A decline in this system is a key feature of Alzheimer's disease, highlighting its profound importance in weaving the tapestry of our personal history. But for every signal to go, there must be a signal to stop. The brain is not just an engine of excitation, it is an exquisitely balanced system of acceleration and braking. The primary brake pedal of your nervous system is a neurotransmitter called gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA. While excitatory messengers like glutamate are shouting, "Fire!", GABA is whispering, "Calm down." It is the great inhibitor, the molecule of tranquility. When GABA binds to a neuron's receptor, it typically opens channels that allow negatively charged chloride ions to flow into the cell. This makes the neuron less likely to fire an electrical signal, effectively dampening neural activity. This inhibitory action is absolutely vital. Without GABA, the brain's excitatory circuits would run unchecked, firing uncontrollably in a chaotic storm that would result in massive seizures. Your ability to focus on a single task, to remain calm under pressure, and to fall asleep at night all depend on the steady, quieting influence of GABA. In fact, many anti-anxiety medications like Valium and Xanax work by enhancing the effects of GABA, artificially pressing that neural brake pedal to reduce feelings of panic and stress. It is the molecular peacekeeper that prevents the galaxy of your mind from descending into chaos. On the other side of this delicate seesaw is glutamate, the most abundant neurotransmitter in your entire nervous system. If GABA is the brake, glutamate is the accelerator. It is the primary excitatory workhorse, involved in over 90% of the synaptic connections in the human brain. When glutamate is released from one neuron, it binds to receptors on the next, opening channels that allow positively charged ions to flood in, increasing the likelihood that the receiving neuron will fire its own signal. This simple on switch is the fundamental basis for nearly all brain operations. It is the spark that ignites neural circuits for learning, memory, and thought. The process of long-term potentiation, which is the cellular basis of memory formation, is critically dependent on glutamate. When you learn something new, specific neural pathways are strengthened, and glutamate is the master architect of this process, remodeling synapses to make communication between certain neurons more efficient. But like any powerful accelerator, it can be dangerous if it gets out of control. An excessive amount of glutamate can overexcite neurons to the point of death, a phenomenon known as excitotoxicity, which is implicated in the damage caused by strokes and certain neurodegenerative diseases. It is a molecule of immense power, the very spark of consciousness, but one that must be kept in a state of perfect, life-sustaining balance with its inhibitory counterpart, GABA. And this internal chemical balance is not just confined to the brain. It is orchestrated throughout your entire body by a second, slower, but equally powerful communication network, the endocrine system. While the nervous system sends rapid-fire electrical messages along dedicated wires, the endocrine system broadcasts its messages more widely, using chemical messengers called hormones, which travel through the river of your bloodstream to target cells all over the body. It is a system of glands that acts as the body's long-distance regulators, controlling processes that unfold over minutes, hours, days, and even years. At the very top of this command hierarchy, nestled at the base of your brain, is a tiny, pea-sized structure called the pituitary gland. Despite its small size, it is often called the master gland because it releases hormones that control the actions of many of the other major endocrine glands. It takes its orders directly from the hypothalamus in the brain, forming the crucial link between your nervous system and your hormonal system. The pituitary gland releases growth hormone, which stimulates the growth of bone and tissue, thyroid-stimulating hormone, which tells the thyroid gland to manage your metabolism, and hormones that control everything from your water balance to uterine contractions during childbirth. It is the tiny central node in a vast body-wide network of chemical control. Following the pituitary's commands, the thyroid gland, a butterfly-shaped organ wrapped around your windpipe, acts as your body's metabolic thermostat. It produces hormones, primarily thyroxine, that regulate the speed at which your cells burn energy. If your thyroid produces too much hormone, your metabolism goes into overdrive, leading to a rapid heart rate, weight loss, and feelings of anxiety. If it produces too little, your metabolism becomes sluggish, causing fatigue, weight gain, and a feeling of constant cold. The thyroid fine-tunes the energy expenditure of every single cell, ensuring that your internal engine is running at just the right speed to meet the demands of your life. It is the silent, powerful regulator of your personal energy economy. Tucked behind this gland are 4 tiny parathyroid glands, each no bigger than a grain of rice. Their sole, vital job is to regulate the level of calcium in your blood. Calcium is not just for strong bones, it is essential for nerve function, muscle contraction, and blood clotting. The parathyroid glands act like a calcium stat, releasing a hormone that tells your bones to release more calcium into the blood or tells your kidneys to conserve it, maintaining the precise concentration of this critical mineral with incredible accuracy. Now, let's travel down to the top of your kidneys, where you'll find the adrenal glands. These are your stress glands, the command centers for your body's emergency response system. The inner part of the gland, the adrenal medulla, produces adrenaline, also known as epinephrine. When you face a sudden threat or intense excitement, your brain sends a signal down the spinal cord directly to the adrenal medulla, which instantly floods your bloodstream with adrenaline. This is the hormone of fight or flight. It dramatically increases your heart rate and blood pressure, sends a surge of sugar into your bloodstream for quick energy, dilates your airways to take in more oxygen, and sharpens your senses. It diverts blood away from non-essential functions like digestion and towards your major muscle groups, preparing your body for peak physical performance. It is a primal, powerful survival mechanism that can grant you surprising feats of strength and speed in a crisis. The outer layer of the adrenal gland, the adrenal cortex, manages more long-term stress. It produces a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol helps regulate your metabolism, reduce inflammation, and control your sleep-wake cycle. However, when you experience chronic stress, cortisol levels can remain elevated, which can have negative effects, including suppressing the immune system, increasing blood pressure, and contributing to anxiety and depression. Your adrenal glands are thus a double-edged sword, essential for short-term survival, but potentially damaging when their powerful hormones are overactivated by the chronic stresses of modern life. Another key player in this endocrine orchestra is the pancreas, an organ nestled behind your stomach that has a dual role. While part of it produces digestive enzymes, scattered throughout the pancreas are tiny clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans, which function as an endocrine gland. These cells are responsible for regulating your blood sugar levels, a task of minute-to-minute importance. After you eat a meal, your blood sugar rises, and in response, the beta cells in your pancreas release insulin. Insulin acts like a key, unlocking the doors of your cells to allow glucose to enter and be used for energy or stored for later. This brings your blood sugar back down to a normal range. Conversely, if you haven't eaten for a while and your blood sugar drops, the alpha cells in your pancreas release a different hormone called glucagon. Glucagon travels to the liver and signals it to break down its stored glycogen and release glucose into the bloodstream, raising your blood sugar levels back to normal. This constant, perfectly balanced dance between insulin and glucagon ensures that your cells, especially your energy-hungry brain cells, have a steady supply of the fuel they need to function. When this system fails, it results in diabetes, a condition that highlights the absolute necessity of this elegant hormonal control. This intricate dance of hormones and neurotransmitters is perhaps most profoundly experienced during the mysterious state of sleep. Sleep is not merely a period of inactivity. It is a critical, highly active biological process that is as essential for your survival as food and water. As you drift off to sleep, your consciousness recedes, but your brain embarks on a complex, structured journey through different stages of sleep, each with its own unique characteristics and purpose. This journey is known as the sleep cycle, and you typically complete 4 to 5 of these cycles each night, with each one lasting about 90 minutes. The first part of the cycle is non-rapid eye movement, or NREM sleep, which is itself divided into 3 stages. Stage N1 is the very light sleep you experience just as you're dozing off. Your muscles relax, your brain waves slow down, and you might experience strange muscle twitches or the sensation of falling. This is a brief transitional stage. Soon, you enter stage N2, a deeper stage of sleep where your heart rate and body temperature drop. Your brain waves show characteristic bursts of rapid activity called sleep spindles and large waves called K-complexes. These are thought to be involved in consolidating memories and shutting out external stimuli to keep you asleep. You spend about half your total sleep time in this stage. Then, you descend into the deepest and most restorative stage of sleep, stage N3, also known as slow-wave sleep. During this stage, your brain produces large, slow delta waves. Your breathing and heart rate are at their lowest levels, and your muscles are completely relaxed. It is very difficult to be woken up from slow-wave sleep. This is the period of profound physical restoration. It's when your body does most of its repair work. Tissues are mended, growth hormone is released, and cellular damage is cleared away. This stage is also critical for memory consolidation, particularly for declarative memory, the memory of facts and events. Your brain replays the neural patterns of the day's experiences, transferring important information from the short-term storage of the hippocampus to the long-term storage of the cortex. It is the brain's nightly filing and maintenance routine, essential for both physical and mental recovery. But recently, a new and incredible function of this deep sleep has been discovered. Your brain has its own unique waste clearance system called the glymphatic system. During the day, your brain cells are packed tightly together. But during slow-wave sleep, some brain cells actually shrink, widening the channels between them. This allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow more freely through the brain tissue, washing away metabolic waste products that have accumulated during waking hours. This includes beta amyloid, the protein that forms the toxic plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Deep sleep is, quite literally, a brainwashing process, a nightly detoxification that is vital for long-term brain health. After spending time in these deep NREM stages, the cycle reverses and you ascend back towards lighter sleep. But instead of waking up, you enter a completely different and utterly bizarre state, rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. Suddenly, your brain explodes with activity, with brain waves that look almost identical to those of an awake, alert brain. Your eyes dart back and forth rapidly behind your closed eyelids, which is what gives this stage its name. Your breathing becomes faster and more irregular, and your heart rate and blood pressure increase. Yet, while your brain is in a state of high arousal, your body is almost completely paralyzed. Your brainstem sends signals to your spinal cord that actively inhibit your motor neurons, preventing you from acting out the vivid, often fantastical dreams that are the hallmark of this stage. This is the REM atonia we mentioned earlier, the body's natural sleep paralysis safety switch. REM sleep is believed to be crucial for emotional regulation and for processing complex procedural memories, like learning a new skill. It's as if your brain is running complex simulations, integrating emotional experiences and consolidating learning in a safe, offline environment. The intricate, predictable, and absolutely essential journey through these sleep stages is a nightly testament to the body's profound intelligence, a fundamental rhythm that governs our health, our memories, and our very sanity. And just as the circulatory system delivers blood, there is another, less celebrated, but equally vital network of vessels that permeates your entire body, the lymphatic system. This is your body's sanitation department and its security force rolled into one. It is a vast network of tissues and organs that helps rid the body of toxins, waste, and other unwanted materials. A clear, watery fluid called lymph circulates through this system, bathing all the cells of your body. As blood circulates, plasma leaks out of the tiny capillaries into the spaces between the cells. Most of this fluid is reabsorbed back into the blood vessels, but some of it, now called lymph, is collected by the lymphatic capillaries. This fluid contains waste products, damaged cells, and, crucially, any bacteria or viruses that have managed to breach your body's outer defenses. The lymphatic system has no central pump like the heart. Instead, the lymph is moved along slowly by the contraction of your skeletal muscles as you move around. This is one of the reasons why physical activity is so important for a healthy immune system. It literally helps to pump and circulate this vital cleansing fluid. The lymph fluid does not just circulate aimlessly. It is directed through a series of checkpoints and filtration stations. The most well-known of these are the lymph nodes, small bean-shaped structures that are clustered in your neck, armpits, and groin. You have hundreds of them throughout your body. These nodes are packed with specialized immune cells, primarily lymphocytes like B cells and T cells. As lymph fluid percolates through a lymph node, it is scanned for any signs of trouble. If a bacterium or virus is detected, the immune cells within the node spring into action. They multiply rapidly to mount an attack, which is why your lymph nodes often become swollen and tender when you are sick. They are busy manufacturing a defensive army. The lymph nodes are the biological barracks and intelligence hubs of your immune system. Other key components of this system include the spleen, an organ that filters your blood, removing old red blood cells and also acting as a major reservoir of immune cells. The tonsils and adenoids form a protective ring at the back of your throat, acting as a first line of defense against pathogens you inhale or swallow. And then there is the thymus, a small gland located behind your breastbone, which is the specialized training school for a critical type of immune cell, the T cell. It is here that T cells learn to distinguish between the body's own cells, self, and foreign invaders, non-self, a crucial education that prevents the immune system from attacking the body itself. The lymphatic system is a silent, sprawling, and sophisticated network that works tirelessly in the background, cleaning your internal environment and guarding you against a constant, invisible threat. Let's zoom back in to the fundamental unit of all this complexity, the single cell, and specifically to its boundary with the world, the cell membrane. This is not a static wall, but a dynamic, fluid, and incredibly intelligent barrier. Known as the fluid mosaic model, the membrane is primarily composed of a double layer of lipid molecules called phospholipids. Each phospholipid has a head that is attracted to water and a tail that repels it. They arrange themselves tail to tail, creating a flexible, oily barrier that prevents the watery contents of the cell from mixing with the watery environment outside. Embedded within this fluid lipid sea are a vast array of protein molecules, like buoys and icebergs floating in the ocean. These proteins are the real workhorses of the membrane. Some form channels and pumps that act as selective gatekeepers, carefully controlling which substances, like sugars, salts, and water, can enter or leave the cell. Others act as receptors. These proteins have specific shapes on the outside of the cell that can bind to signaling molecules like hormones or neurotransmitters. When the right molecule docks with its receptor, it triggers a change inside the cell, like flipping a switch that activates a specific cellular process. This is how a cell listens to the messages being sent from the rest of the body. The cell membrane is therefore the cell's skin, its mouth, its sensory organs, and its communication hub all rolled into one impossibly thin, dynamic structure. Inside this membrane is a bustling city of production, and at the heart of that production line is the journey of a protein. As we know, the instructions for building a protein are encoded in a gene on your DNA. This instruction is first transcribed into a messenger RNA, or mRNA molecule, which travels out of the nucleus into the main body of the cell, the cytoplasm. There, it finds a ribosome, which is the cell's protein-building machine. The ribosome clamps onto the mRNA strand and begins to read its code 3 letters at a time. For each 3-letter codon, the ribosome grabs a corresponding amino acid delivered by another type of RNA called transfer RNA and adds it to a growing chain. This is the process of translation. For many proteins, this is just the beginning of the journey. If the protein is destined for export out of the cell or to be embedded in a membrane, the ribosome will attach itself to a vast network of folded membranes called the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. On the surface of the rough ER, the newly formed protein chain is threaded into the ER's interior, where it begins to be folded into its precise 3-dimensional shape, a process as crucial as its chemical sequence. From the ER, the protein is enclosed in a tiny transport vesicle and sent to another organelle called the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi is the cell's post office. It receives proteins from the ER, further modifies them, sorts them, and packages them into new vesicles for their final destination. It might tag a protein with a molecular shipping label that directs it to the cell membrane, to an organelle like a lysosome, or for secretion out of the cell entirely. This intricate, highly organized pathway, from DNA blueprint to a finished, functional protein shipped to its correct location, is happening trillions of times a second throughout your body. It is the fundamental manufacturing process that builds and maintains the living machinery of you. And all of this manufacturing requires energy. We've called the mitochondria the powerhouses, but the process by which they generate this power, cellular respiration, is a marvel of biochemical engineering. It's a 3-act play. The first act, glycolysis, takes place in the cell's cytoplasm. A molecule of glucose, a simple sugar from your food, is split in half. This process requires a small investment of energy, but yields a small net profit of 2 ATP molecules, the cell's energy currency. The real payoff comes in the next 2 acts, which take place inside the mitochondria. Act 2 is the Krebs cycle. The broken down glucose fragments are systematically dismantled, atom by atom, releasing high-energy electrons, which are captured by special carrier molecules. This process also generates a couple more ATP molecules and releases carbon dioxide as a waste product, the very same carbon dioxide you exhale with every breath. The final and most spectacular act is the electron transport chain. The high-energy electrons captured in the previous stage are passed down a series of protein complexes embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane, like a bucket brigade or a series of tiny waterfalls. With each step, the electrons release a small burst of energy. This energy is used to pump protons across the membrane, creating a powerful electrical and chemical gradient, like water building up behind a dam. Finally, these protons are allowed to flow back across the membrane through a remarkable molecular turbine called ATP synthase. As the protons rush through, they cause part of the enzyme to spin at incredible speeds, and this rotational energy is used to slam a phosphate group onto a molecule of ADP, creating ATP. This final stage is an oxygen-hungry process. Oxygen is the final electron acceptor at the end of the chain, which is why you need to breathe. The electron transport chain is an incredibly efficient process, generating around 32 to 34 ATP molecules for every single molecule of glucose. It is this elegant, multi-stage reaction that powers every muscular contraction, every nerve impulse, and every chemical reaction that keeps you alive. But this incredible machine is not immortal. The process of aging, or senescence, is a complex and multifaceted biological reality. One of the leading theories revolves around the ends of our chromosomes. Each chromosome is capped with a protective sequence of DNA called a telomere, often compared to the plastic tip on a shoelace. Every time a cell divides, a tiny piece of this telomere is lost. For a while, this isn't a problem, as it's just protective, non-coding DNA that's being eroded. But after many divisions, the telomeres become critically short. At this point, the cell receives a signal to stop dividing, entering a state of senescence, or sometimes even triggering programmed cell death. This acts as a crucial safeguard against uncontrolled cell division, which is the hallmark of cancer. However, this built-in cellular clock also means that our tissues and organs gradually lose their ability to regenerate and repair themselves, contributing to the signs and symptoms of aging. Another major factor is the accumulation of damage over a lifetime. The very process of cellular respiration, while essential for life, produces highly reactive byproducts called free radicals. These are unstable molecules that can damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes in a process called oxidative stress. Over the years, this damage accumulates, leading to a gradual decline in cellular function. Your body has antioxidant defenses to neutralize these free radicals, but the system isn't perfect, and the wear and tear builds up over decades. The gradual decline of our biological systems is a fundamental, unavoidable consequence of the very processes that sustain our lives. Yet, the story of our biology is not written in stone from the moment of our conception. The script of our DNA is not a fixed destiny, but more like a complex musical score that can be played in many different ways. This is the fascinating field of epigenetics. The prefix epi means above or on top of, so epigenetics refers to the modifications that sit on top of our DNA sequence. These are chemical tags, like methyl groups, that can be attached to the DNA itself or to the histone proteins that our DNA is wrapped around. These tags don't change the underlying genetic code, the letters of the alphabet, but they act like punctuation or formatting, telling the cellular machinery which genes to read loudly, which to read quietly, and which to ignore completely. They are the switches and dimmer knobs that control gene expression. And what's truly revolutionary is that these epigenetic tags can be influenced by our environment and our lifestyle. The food you eat, the air you breathe, the stress you experience, the exercise you get, all of these factors can alter your epigenome, changing the way your genes are expressed. This is why identical twins who share the exact same DNA sequence can grow up to have very different health outcomes, such as one developing a certain disease while the other remains healthy. Their life experiences have written different epigenetic instructions on top of their identical genetic blueprints. Even more astoundingly, some of these epigenetic changes can be passed down through generations. The experiences of your parents or even grandparents may have left epigenetic marks that influence your own biology. Epigenetics is the missing link, the beautiful and complex mechanism through which nurture shapes nature, demonstrating that we are in a constant, dynamic dialogue with our environment, right down to the molecular level of our genes. This dialogue between our internal and external worlds brings us to one of the most powerful and enigmatic phenomena in all of medicine, the placebo effect. A placebo is an inert substance or sham treatment, like a sugar pill or a saline injection, that has no direct pharmacological effect on the body. Yet, in countless clinical trials, a significant portion of patients given a placebo will report a real improvement in their symptoms. This is not just imagination. The placebo effect can produce measurable physiological changes. A patient given a placebo painkiller might not just report feeling less pain. Their brain will actually be shown to release its own natural opioid painkillers, the endorphins. Someone given a placebo stimulant might experience a genuine increase in heart rate and blood pressure. The simple act of belief, the expectation that a treatment will work, can trigger the brain's own internal pharmacy to produce real therapeutic outcomes. The rituals of medicine, the doctor's white coat, the clinical setting, the act of swallowing a pill, all act as powerful cues that activate the brain's reward and expectation pathways. This releases a cascade of neurochemicals like dopamine and endorphins that can modulate pain, reduce inflammation, and even affect our immune response. The placebo effect is not a testament to the power of fake medicine. It is a profound testament to the power of the mind itself. It reveals the incredible, almost mystical connection between our consciousness, our beliefs, and our physical biology, demonstrating that the brain is not just a passive observer of the body, but an active and powerful participant in its own health and healing. The stories we tell ourselves about our health can become self-fulfilling prophecies, written in the language of neurotransmitters and hormones. This very language provides the script for some of the body's most potent, self-generated medicines and poisons. Consider the simple, profound act of laughter. It feels like an emotion, but it is a powerful physical event. When you laugh, you engage in a complex series of rapid, rhythmic contractions of the diaphragm and other respiratory muscles, a process that has been described as internal jogging. This convulsive action increases your intake of oxygen-rich air, stimulating your heart, lungs, and muscles, and increasing the release of endorphins, your brain's natural feel-good chemicals and painkillers. In the short term, a hearty laugh fires up and then cools down your stress response. It increases and then decreases your heart rate and blood pressure, resulting in a good, relaxed feeling. Over the long term, laughter can actually improve your immune system by increasing the number of antibody-producing cells and enhancing the effectiveness of T cells. It is a physiological cascade that begins with a perception of humor and ends with a measurable boost to your physical health, a perfect illustration of the mind directly and powerfully conditioning the body. Conversely, the same mind-body connection can become a pathway for chronic damage when subjected to persistent stress. Fight or flight response, mediated by adrenaline, is designed for acute, short-term emergencies. But for the chronic, low-grade stressors of modern life, work deadlines, financial worries, traffic jams, the body engages a different, more sustained system known as the HPA axis, involving the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. When your brain perceives a persistent stressor, the hypothalamus releases a hormone that signals the pituitary gland, which in turn signals the adrenal cortex to release cortisol. This system is designed to help the body manage long-term challenges by mobilizing energy stores and suppressing non-essential functions. However, when the HPA axis is constantly activated, the resulting flood of cortisol can be deeply corrosive. It keeps blood sugar levels high, which can contribute to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. It suppresses the immune and inflammatory responses, leaving you more vulnerable to infections. It can disrupt sleep patterns, contribute to weight gain, and impair cognitive functions, particularly memory, by damaging neurons in the hippocampus. Chronic stress doesn't just make you feel bad, it actively dismantles your body's delicate equilibrium, turning a life-saving survival mechanism into a slow-acting poison, all orchestrated by the same brain that can heal with a placebo or a laugh. This brain, the ultimate arbiter of your internal state, is also the master architect of your external reality. It does not passively record the world like a camera, it actively constructs it. Take your sense of vision. Your retina, the light-sensitive tissue at the back of your eye, is where the journey begins, but it's already an incredibly complex piece of neural hardware. It contains two types of photoreceptor cells, about 120 million rods, and 6 million cones. The rods are exquisitely sensitive to light, responsible for your vision in dim conditions, but they see the world only in shades of gray. The cones are responsible for your color vision and for seeing fine detail, but they require bright light to function. You have 3 different types of cones, each tuned to be most sensitive to a different wavelength of light. One for long wavelengths, red, one for medium, green, and one for short, blue. Every color you have ever perceived in your entire life is simply the result of your brain interpreting the combined signal from these 3 types of cones. If you see the color yellow, for example, it's because both your red and green cones are being stimulated, and your brain synthesizes this combination into the specific sensation of yellow. Your entire Technicolor reality is an elaborate illusion painted in real time by your brain from just 3 primary inputs. Even more striking is the way your brain deals with a fundamental flaw in your eye's design. There is a spot on your retina where the optic nerve, the bundled cable of axons from all the retinal cells, exits the back of the eye to travel to the brain. In this specific spot, there are no photoreceptors, no rods or cones. It is a complete and total blind spot in your field of vision, about the size of a dinner plate held at arm's length. Yet you have never, ever perceived this gaping hole in your reality. Why? Because your brain is a master counterfeiter. It takes the visual information from the surrounding area and seamlessly fills in the blank space with its best guess of what should be there. It paints in the color, the pattern, the texture so perfectly that the gap is rendered completely invisible to your conscious mind. This isn't just a minor edit, it's an active, continuous act of creation. It's a powerful reminder that what you perceive as an objective, unbroken reality is actually a meticulously edited and artfully constructed simulation, curated by the silent, predictive genius of your visual cortex. This sensory synthesis is not unique to vision. The experience of flavor is another grand illusion, a multisensory masterpiece conducted by the brain. What you think of as taste is, in reality, dominated by your sense of smell. Your tongue's taste buds are relatively simple detectors, capable of identifying only the 5 basic qualities: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. The rich, complex, and nuanced world of flavor, the difference between a strawberry and a raspberry, or between coffee and chocolate, is not perceived by your tongue, but by your nose. As you chew your food, volatile aromatic molecules are released and travel up the back of your throat into your nasal cavity, a pathway known as the retronasal passage. There, they stimulate your millions of olfactory receptors. Your brain then brilliantly combines the simple taste signals from your tongue with the complex aroma signals from your nose to create the unified perception of a single flavor. This is why, when you have a cold and your nasal passages are blocked, food tastes incredibly bland and one-dimensional. You have effectively lost most of your ability to perceive flavor, leaving you with only the 5 basic tastes. But the brain doesn't stop there. It also weaves in information from other senses. The texture of the food in your mouth, touch, the temperature, hot or cold, the sharp sensation of chili peppers or the coolness of mint, chemesthesis, and even the sound of a crunchy potato chip all become integral parts of the final flavor experience. Flavor is not in the food. It is a perception that your brain creates by fusing together information from at least 5 different sensory systems. The brain's role as a grand integrator extends far beyond your conscious perception of the external world. It is in constant, dynamic conversation with the vast internal world of your body, particularly the teeming microbial ecosystem within your gut. We've established that you are a superorganism, but the communication between your human cells and your microbial residents is a frontier of biology that is only now being fully explored. The primary information superhighway for this conversation is the vagus nerve, a massive cranial nerve that wanders from the brainstem all the way down into the abdomen, innervating the heart, lungs, and most of the digestive tract. It is a bidirectional communication channel, And surprisingly, an estimated 80 to 90% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve are dedicated to carrying information from the gut up to the brain, not the other way around. Your gut is constantly talking to your brain. Your gut microbes are key participants in this conversation. They can produce and modulate a vast array of neuroactive compounds, including many of the same neurotransmitters like serotonin, GABA, and dopamine that your own neurons use to communicate. These microbial messengers can directly stimulate the vagus nerve endings in the gut wall, sending signals to the brain that can influence your mood, your stress levels, and even your behavior. Furthermore, when your gut bacteria digest dietary fiber, they produce metabolites called short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs. These SCFAs are not just food for the cells lining your colon. They can also enter the bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and directly influence brain function, reducing neuroinflammation and promoting the health of brain cells. The old saying, "Trust your gut," takes on a new, literal meaning. Your gut feelings are, in part, a biological reality, a complex signal derived from the vast, intelligent microbial ecosystem you host within. This internal ecosystem is held together not just by membranes and chemical signals, but by a pervasive, often overlooked structural and communication network called the extracellular matrix, or ECM. For a long time, the space between our cells was thought to be little more than inert biological packing peanuts, a simple glue holding everything in place. We now know that the ECM is a complex, dynamic, and vital component of every tissue and organ in your body, so integral that it's sometimes referred to as a forgotten organ. It is a three-dimensional web woven from an intricate combination of proteins and carbohydrates. The most abundant protein in this matrix, and indeed in your entire body, is collagen. Collagen fibers provide incredible tensile strength, like the steel cables in a suspension bridge, giving your tissues resilience and structure. There are more than 24 different types of collagen, each tailored to the specific needs of the tissue it inhabits, from the rope-like bundles in your tendons to the fine meshwork that supports your skin. Woven among the collagen are fibers of another protein, elastin. As its name suggests, elastin provides elasticity, the ability of tissues to stretch and then snap back to their original shape. It's what allows your lungs to expand and contract, your arteries to pulse with your heartbeat, and your skin to recoil when you pinch it. Suspended within this fibrous network is a gel-like substance made of complex sugar molecules that absorb and hold vast amounts of water, creating a hydrated, compression-resistant medium that supports the cells. But the ECM is far more than just a physical scaffold. It is a dynamic signaling hub. It physically anchors cells in place, and through these anchor points, it transmits mechanical forces throughout the tissue. Cells can sense the stiffness and tension of the matrix around them, and this information can profoundly influence their behavior, telling them when to grow, when to move, and even what type of cell to become. It is a vast, body-wide web of mechanical information, a physical internet that allows cells to communicate and coordinate their actions across entire tissues and organs, demonstrating that our biology is governed not just by chemistry, but by physics and architecture as well. This interplay of physics and biology is nowhere more apparent than in the seemingly simple act of walking. Human bipedal locomotion is a biomechanical miracle, an act of continuous, controlled falling. When you take a step, you lean forward, allowing gravity to pull your center of mass ahead of your base of support. You then swing one leg forward to catch yourself, planting it on the ground to create a new base of support just in time to prevent a fall. The entire gait cycle is a rhythmic dance with gravity, a series of near disasters elegantly averted. This process is incredibly efficient thanks to the pendulum-like mechanics of our swinging legs and the remarkable engineering of our feet. The human foot is a masterpiece of design, containing 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles, ligaments, and tendons. Its most crucial feature is its arched structure. You have 3 arches in each foot, 2 longitudinal arches running from front to back, and 1 transverse arch running from side to side. When you stand, these arches act like a leaf spring, flattening slightly to absorb the shock of your body weight. When you push off to take a step, the arches recoil, releasing that stored elastic energy to help propel you forward. This brilliant system of shock absorption and energy return reduces the impact on your joints and significantly lowers the amount of muscular energy required to walk and run. It is a perfect example of how our anatomy has evolved to exploit the laws of physics, turning our skeleton into a series of elegant, energy-saving levers and springs. This same principle of exploiting physics is fundamental to the most vital rhythm of your life: breathing. The act of respiration is not about actively sucking air in. It is about creating a space for the air to rush into on its own. Your primary muscle of respiration is the diaphragm, a large, dome-shaped sheet of muscle that sits at the base of your chest cavity. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts and flattens, moving downward. At the same time, the intercostal muscles between your ribs contract, pulling your rib cage up and out. Together, these 2 actions dramatically increase the volume of your thoracic cavity. According to a fundamental principle of physics known as Boyle's law, as the volume of a container increases, the pressure inside it decreases. So, as your chest cavity expands, the pressure inside your lungs drops to become lower than the air pressure of the outside world. Air, like any gas, naturally flows from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. Thus, air simply rushes into your lungs to equalize the pressure, with no sucking required. Exhalation, when you are at rest, is an even more passive process. Your diaphragm and intercostal muscles simply relax. The natural elastic recoil of your lungs and chest wall causes the volume of your thoracic cavity to decrease. This increases the pressure inside your lungs to be higher than the outside air pressure, and the air flows passively out. It is an exquisitely simple and efficient system, a physical pump driven by the elegant manipulation of pressure gradients. Once that air is inside your lungs, another physical principle takes over to perform the vital task of gas exchange. The air travels down your branching airways until it reaches the millions of tiny, bubble-like alveoli. Each alveolus is wrapped in a dense web of microscopic capillaries, the smallest of your blood vessels. The wall of the alveolus and the wall of the capillary are each only 1 cell thick. The total barrier separating the air in your lungs from the blood in your circulatory system is therefore infinitesimally thin, less than a micron across. Here, the law of diffusion reigns supreme. Your blood arrives at the lungs laden with carbon dioxide, a waste product from cellular respiration and low in oxygen. The air you've just inhaled, by contrast, is rich in oxygen and low in carbon dioxide. Molecules will always naturally move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Without any energy expenditure, without any active pumping mechanism, oxygen molecules simply diffuse across that incredibly thin membrane from the air into the blood, where they are snapped up by hemoglobin molecules in your red blood cells. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide molecules diffuse in the opposite direction, from the high concentration in your blood to the low concentration in the air of your alveoli, ready to be expelled on your next exhale. This silent, effortless, and continuous exchange, happening across a surface area the size of a tennis court, is governed by the simple, inexorable laws of physics. Every second of your life, this process delivers the oxygen that fuels the fire in your trillions of cells and removes the metabolic smoke, a constant, rhythmic transaction that forms the very foundation of your animate existence. This foundation is built upon water, the unsung hero and most abundant molecule in your body. But water in your cells is not like water in a glass. It is a crowded, bustling, and highly structured environment. The water molecules, being polar, form weak hydrogen bonds with each other, creating a dynamic, flickering network. This network is constantly being disrupted and reformed by the jiggling thermal motions of the water molecules themselves and by the much larger proteins and other macromolecules that are dissolved within it. In the immediate vicinity of a protein, the water molecules become highly ordered, forming a hydration shell that clings to the protein's surface. This shell of structured water is not just a passive coating. It is an integral part of the protein itself, stabilizing its folded shape and lubricating its movements as it changes conformation to perform its function. The unique properties of water, its ability to form hydrogen bonds, its high heat capacity that helps regulate your body temperature, and its unparalleled capacity as a solvent, create the perfect stage for the drama of life to unfold. The aqueous environment inside your cells is not just a backdrop. It is an active and essential participant in nearly every biological process. Among these processes is the constant surveillance and maintenance of your genetic code. Your DNA is a remarkably stable molecule, but it is not invulnerable. It is under constant assault from both internal and external threats. The simple chemical processes of your own metabolism can create DNA-damaging byproducts. External factors, like ultraviolet radiation from the sun or exposure to certain chemicals, can also cause errors in your genetic code. A single cell in your body can suffer tens of thousands of DNA damage events every single day. If left unrepaired, these errors could accumulate, leading to mutations that could disrupt cell function or lead to cancer. To counter this relentless threat, your cells have evolved a sophisticated and multi-layered army of DNA repair mechanisms. There are teams of specialized proteins that constantly patrol your DNA, scanning for errors like a proofreading editor. If a damaged base is found, one set of enzymes will snip it out. Another enzyme will then insert the correct base, using the opposite strand of the DNA as a template. A final enzyme will then seal the backbone of the DNA, completing the patch. There are different repair systems tailored for different types of damage, from simple base mismatches to catastrophic double-strand breaks in the DNA molecule. This tireless, microscopic repair crew is working in nearly every one of your cells right now, preserving the integrity of your personal blueprint against the constant forces of chemical decay and environmental damage. It is a silent, perpetual war against entropy, fought and won on a molecular battlefield. This constant battle for stability is also waged at the level of your entire body in the form of homeostasis. This is the dynamic process through which your body maintains a stable internal environment despite the constantly changing conditions of the outside world. Your body temperature, for example, is kept within a very narrow range, around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. If you start to get too hot, your hypothalamus detects the change and initiates a cooling response. Your blood vessels dilate to radiate heat away from your skin surface, and your sweat glands activate to cool you through evaporation. If you get too cold, the opposite happens. Your blood vessels constrict to conserve heat, and your muscles begin to shiver, generating heat through rapid contractions. The same kind of negative feedback loops are at play to regulate your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your blood pH, and the balance of water and electrolytes in your body. These systems are not static. They are in a constant state of flux, making tiny adjustments from second to second to counteract any disturbances. This ceaseless activity, this dynamic balancing act, is the physiological definition of being alive. It is the invisible, intelligent effort that maintains the precise internal conditions required for your trillions of cells not just to survive, but to thrive. Part of this thriving involves communication over incredibly short distances between adjacent cells. While hormones travel long distances in the blood and neurotransmitters leap across synapses, cells that are touching can communicate directly through specialized junctions. One type, called a gap junction, forms a tiny channel or pore that directly connects the cytoplasm of two neighboring cells. This allows small molecules and ions to pass freely between them. This direct line of communication is crucial in tissues where cells need to act in a highly coordinated fashion. In your heart muscle, for example, gap junctions allow the electrical impulse to contract to spread almost instantaneously from one cell to the next, ensuring that all the cells of the heart beat in perfect, powerful synchrony. In other tissues, these junctions allow cells to share nutrients and chemical signals, fostering a sense of community and cooperation at the cellular level. It is a form of local, intimate communication that allows a tissue to function less like a collection of individual cells and more like a single, unified supercell. Ultimately, all of these systems, from the grand architecture of your skeleton to the microscopic dance of molecules within a single cell, are expressions of information. The information encoded in your DNA, the information transmitted by your nervous and endocrine systems, the information gathered by your senses, and the information processed by your brain. You are, in the most profound sense, an information processing being. The total amount of information contained in your DNA alone is staggering, but the information generated by the real-time activity of your brain eclipses even that. The patterns of firing across your 86 billion neurons with their 100 trillion connections represent a computational state of unimaginable complexity. Every memory, every skill, every fleeting thought is encoded in the specific structure and activity of this neural web. The conscious self that you experience as you is an emergent property of this torrent of information processing, a coherent pattern that arises from the underlying chaos of electrochemical signals. This continuous flow of information defines not just your biological function, but your very identity. Your body is not just a machine made of matter. It is a story written in the language of molecules, a dynamic pattern of information that has achieved the astonishing feat of becoming aware of itself. This self-awareness, this consciousness, remains the single greatest mystery in all of science, a phenomenon that arises from the intricate biological machinery we've explored, yet seems to transcend it. The relationship between the physical brain and the subjective experience of being remains a deep and tantalizing frontier.